Hello everybody, I'm the Fast Hero and welcome to episode 18 of my FTL Faster Than Light Let's Play playthrough. So last time I didn't do too well. I ended up dying. You might have noticed. But you know, we're kind of just experimenting. I was trying to explain the strategy of using beam weapons, and it's a difficult strategy. It's not really your standard one. So it's a hard thing to do. But, I mean, we ended up getting all the way to the ending bad guy. That's something, right? But no, this time I'm actually going to focus on giving you guys the general strategy. Just survivability. You know what I'm saying? So, off screen, really quick, I had gotten the second layout of the red tail, which only required two of the three challenges, you could say, and that's with any of the ships, and that's how I got the Engi layout too. And you know, you'd be able to get the adjudicator level 2 just by getting a couple of or one of these two, and then it's going to be more beam weapon strategy. So why I got the red tail is because it's just very straightforward. If you look at here, it's got 4 slots for your weapons, and it starts off with 4 defense laser Mark 1. And each of them have a 10-second charge time, like require only 1 power and have 1 shot. So you can instantly have a barrage of 4 going at the enemy at 4 different targets as well, targeting 4 different one of their systems. In my opinion, it's always better to have a smaller or a larger number of less damaging weapons than having, you know, 1 or 2 really strong weapons. So this is just a good layout to start with. So we're just going to start off on easy, and it's going to be a lot of explanations, so please bear with me. But I'm hopefully trying to instill in you the ability to survive FTL. And I know that's a difficult thing to do, but let's do it here. So codename Redtail, ours is going to be Crimson Eagle. And then let's kind of customize our people here. So right off the bat, we've got our captain, Lupita. We've got our our engineer, Christoph Z. We'll name them Nettie. And then we've got our obnoxiously Kelly Green, Plutonium Z, and this Mantis we'll call Dragon Fang. Alright, so we've got our crew all ready to go. And one thing you'll notice about this ship too is that it already starts with 4 capacity in its weapons. And so it does some pretty decent power right off of the start. You guys know the drill. We've got some information, and we need to get to the Federation forefront and tell them about the weakness of the rebels. So right off the bat, I'm going to start off by explaining some of the systems and subsystems, how you should upgrade them, how you should be using them, and what kind of an effect they have. Now, right off of the bat, your first defense, and something you should be upgrading the entire time, is your shields. Now, shields are really, like, they're your first line of defense. They are super important. Now, not going to be really important for later in the game when you have missiles coming at you and you have, you know, bombs that teleport into your ship and everything like that. but you do have, I mean, it'll block all of your basic beams and lasers, which is for the most part, what your enemies have. And so, one thing you really want to keep in mind when you're upgrading your shields is that when you upgrade it once, it doesn't do much. It's just like the in-between between the barrier upgrades. So what I always like to do is save up an amount of scrap that will be enough to get you to the next barrier level, not just enough to get you some shield, because while that may provide a buffer area of damage, and I'll explain that in a second, it's not going to give you any improvements, and it's really just taking scrap. So it just kind of, it sucks, you know. So I always try to parse it out in exactly how much it'll cost to get the next barrier. Now, to get the second barrier, it's going to be 50, the third barrier is going to be 100, and then the fourth barrier is 180. Now, on top of that, try to mathematics in the scrap it'll take to increase your reactor core and your power levels to be able to fill that and activate the shields as well. So for the second level of shields, it's not just going to be 50, it's going to be around 90, because each power bar is around 20 at that level. It increases to 25 and then 30, 35. So later on, it'll take a little bit more, and that all depends on how much reactor power you have at the time. Your second level of defense is going to be your engines. And why that's a level of defense is because every bonus added to it increases your dodge. So, now the dodge is a dodge chance. I'll actually get to that point in the next video, but for right now, every time you upgrade your engine, you get an increase to your dodge, which is like anytime they throw any missiles at you or like any of the attacks, you can actually dodge, and so you can get up to 35 dodge, and it also increases your FTL speed. So it's a worthwhile investment and something you should be increasing throughout your playthrough. However, increasing it all the way to the top takes up so much reactor energy that it would be like, I mean, it's six extra like power bars that you need to just pull out of your ass. And it's like, that's a huge amount to just set aside for just your engines. Now, granted, you're going to have an incredible dodge capacity, but you really aren't going to be able to... You're not going to be able to have that energy for other more meaningful systems like your oxygen, your weapons, your drone control room, your hacking or mind control. You know, these are systems that you really should be having and focusing and making them the best that they can be. And then if you have some extra, throw it to the engines. And if you have like there's another subsystem that's the backup battery. And so you can have a backup battery to give you extra energy to be able to put into those systems. And that's always a nice upgrade as well. So look out for that. Get that in your ship and on top of your other stuff if you're having problems, you know, finding the energy to power all of your systems. And on top of this, always make sure to have somebody manning the room. The engineer in there will help you avoid missiles and incoming attacks just as well as increasing the score there. And every time you jump, you're going to give that person more, or every time you like evade or dodge a bullet, you're going to give that person another bonus to their skill. And they can get 2 bonuses. I think it gives you a +10 evasion, and that's very handy on top of that. So, and then you'll see here we got the med bay and the oxygen room. Now they're both very similar in that the med bay will allow you to heal faster. The oxygen will allow you to refill the oxygen in your ship faster. But another thing that's important about having upgrades to these systems is that it provides that buffer damage. Now here I'll get into that. So if your enemy attacks you and you have level 2 medbay, even if you don't have the energy to sustain that level 2, if it's upgraded to the level 2, it'll only be damaged, like if the attack is only like a 1 damage attack, then it'll only damage it 1, and you don't have to worry about it entirely going offline. So if you needed to heal somebody in a pinch, you could get your guy in there, and they'll also, of course, repair it while they're there. But beside that, buffer damage and having buffers on certain rooms is a good strategy to have, and a valid strategy if you wanted to upgrade them just for that sake. So oxygen, increases the refill boost. Weapon control, you guys have seen this, like there's only 8. Luckily with this ship, you start with 4. You start at that halfway. But one thing you got to do is always pay attention to what you're buying, how many slots you have, how much extra energy you can put into that system, and like maybe your overall goal of what type of weapons you kind of want near the end. For this system, we have, or for this layout, this run, the Crimson Eagle, or the Red Tail, it starts off with 4 level 1, like basic 1 damage lasers, and they all have the same cooldown, which is really cool. They act like the same weapon almost. But I like to slowly upgrade them each, like one after the other, and kind of just maybe have 4 weapons that each take up 2 energy apiece, and that would be maxed out. It'll be totally neat, but you just try to keep in mind like what your goal is, and always try to work towards that goal. Then down here are the subsystems. This is kind of something to pay attention to. So with the piloting, you can increase the pilot. It'll give you an auto 50% evasion, but that's only when you don't have a pilot. So it's not something that's going to be incredibly helpful unless your strategy is to not have a pilot in the cockpit while you're running around. I like to have a pilot there the entire time because they'll provide that evasion. They will be increasing your FTL recharge, and it's always nice to have somebody there. They'll be getting better at being a pilot by being there as well, and that's always nice. And then if you look at the sensors and the door system, these both are very similar with their upgrades. They'll just kind of increase your ability to control everything. So increasing your sensors will allow you to do things like see the enemy interior, see the enemy weapon charge, or eventually seeing the enemy power use. Now if you look at the top upgrade, it doesn't have a slot next to it. Like, you can't actually upgrade to the point that you see the enemy power use. That's because you need to upgrade to the one right below it, and then also have a crew member in the sensors area, and then it'll actually be to the next level. Because every time you have like your sensors, or what I like to call your security room, if you have a crew member in there, it will increase it to the next level. Now, you don't have to worry about it too often at the beginning, but it's really nice to have higher sensors if you're doing things like hacking the enemy, if you're doing things like controlling their minds with the mind control system. And being able to see inside the enemy ship it's necessary to be able to use a mind control, but it's also just very helpful. Being able to see where they are, maybe there's a fire and one of them is at very low health, you can then attack the rooms that they're in and it'll deal damage to them as well. And so you can change your strategy of defeating the enemy on the fly, from maybe just, instead of just attacking their hull, to attacking their crew mates and just like destroying them as well, or instead. And then your door system, on the other hand, is a very good defensive maneuver. Now, if you have enemies on your ship, having somebody in the security room is always nice, but just upgrading your door system at least to the second level makes it so they can't just walk through any door they want. They have to like beat it down. And so once you get to the second or third level, it just increases how much damage they have to do to the door to get past it. It allows you to do things like taking the oxygen out of the entire ship, except for where your crew members are, and forcing the enemy to suffocate while they're like beating down the doors to get into the next rooms. You know, it's very, very nice. But just, you know, make sure you're paying attention, because sometimes you can do something like that and then they'll beat down the door to the only remaining room, and once the door is beat down, then it actually has to remain open until the end of that encounter. So if you had taken out the oxygen from the rest of your ship and then they beat down that door, then the oxygen is going to be taken out of that next room as well. So just make sure it's gradual. Make sure that when they're beating down a door, it's like just into the next corridor, into the next room after that, and then they're constantly having to fight with this suffocation and then eventually dying. And I know that sounds fucking terrible, and it is fucking terrible, but when somebody is on your damn ship and you're trying to keep your crew safe, nothing's off limits. Damn it. Alright, and then there's other subsystems, other systems that we'll get into while we play. Hopefully I'll run into a lot of them, and I'll try to explain them, explain their strategy and the way that you can use them to best benefit you as we go through. So, one thing that I just want to put out there is always try to overlap strategies, and stuff that's complementary, like mind control and drones on their ship, like attack drones that go onto their ship and attack them from the inside. Always so cool, always very cool. Or mind control and teleportation, teleporting your allies, your crew members, onto their ship to attack them while you're controlling their minds is a very good strategy, just like bombarding them with enemies, and one of their allies turns into an enemy, so it's like double plus good. You know, so just like complementary strategies, just kind of like synergize, and then you'll make it there if you are prepared enough. So, you know, focus on your defense. Make sure your shield is all the way up by the end. Make sure your engines have at least a couple more. One thing that I like to do is just kind of upgrade all of my main things. You know, my weapons, my my sensors up one, my door system up one maybe, and then my shields all the way up to the top, maybe having these up one each, and then at the very end, if I have some extra cash, I'll just throw it onto my engines and, increase it as much as I can. And also, like, upgrade some of the things if I have some extra cash, or, like, scrap, just to give that buffered damage for that final battle. Okay, so now that I've talked your fucking ear off, let us get into it. But we're actually at the end of the episode. So, I'm so sorry that I had to just talk the entire episode about just all of the little things. But, you know, that's what this playthrough, this run-through, is all about. So hopefully next time we will get into it. We will do a lot more. And I'm going to explain everything as we come to it. And hopefully we can do some good. Just like the beginning of every episode, every run-through, make sure that you have your lasers or all of your weapons active. Make sure to save the spots of your crew members and that your auto fire is on. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I've been having a lot of fun with this playthrough, and I hope you are too. I will see you guys next time, and make sure to take care of yourselves. So important. Bye.